Equals dawn over East Prussia, August 31st, 1939. A pale sun broke through mist curling over endless fields, glinting on ranks of armored columns poised along the Vistula frontier. General Friedrich Adler stood beside his staff car, listening as motor engines coughed to life. In the east, Poland slept on a fragile peace about to vanish. His subordinates awaited his signal, crisp and expectant. "The Führer's command stands, Herr General," said Major Reiner, eyes steady. Adler nodded, though his hand trembled slightly above the dispatch map. He had served Germany his entire life, through the trenches of the last war, through humiliation, through revival. Still, some inner voice whispered, this time the path was wrong. The wind carried the metallic tang of oil and destiny. At 4:45 a.m., guns thundered across the frontier. Poland was aflame. In that roar, Adler felt both pride and dread, the empire stirring, but perhaps towards ruin.
The ground shook as panzer divisions sliced through the Polish countryside. Smoke rose from burning farms, and horse-mounted Polish cavalry galloped valiantly across fields that were being ravaged by mechanized thunder. Adler's command car raced behind the vanguard near Mlawa. Radios crackled with cold efficiency, reports of breakthroughs, of units encircled, of Warsaw trembling. "Speed is victory," barked Colonel Huber, exhilarated. Adler answered softly, "And what of mercy?" His adjutant glanced in confusion. Mercy was not in the new doctrine. The phrase blitzkrieg echoed in Adler's mind not as pride, but as warning, a storm too fierce to control. He saw in his soldiers' hungry eyes the intoxication of conquest. Beneath their triumph a silence stretched, the silence of things already lost, though unspoken. It was September 3rd. Britain and France had declared war. The fire had spread, unstoppable.
Along the roads outside Bialystok, the defeated filed past Polish prisoners in tattered uniforms, eyes hollow with dust and grief. Adler stepped down from his vehicle, watching trucks rumble by filled with captives. Some stared defiantly, others barely lifted their gaze. His young aide whispered, "They fought stubbornly, sir." Adler replied, "Because they believed they must." That night, a captured Polish officer was brought before him. The man straightened his uniform, saluted, and said in accented German, "You cannot win by destroying your honor." The words lingered as Adler dismissed him to the POW convoy. In the distance, searchlights crossed the night sky, illuminating the broken country. He wondered if those beams sought the enemy or illuminated their own shadows. The Poles had fallen, but in Adler's heart, victory felt hollow, a sound without echo.
By mid-September, the Soviet Union attacked from the east, sealing Poland's fate. In a dim headquarters near Brest-Litovsk, German officers toasted their unexpected partners. Adler listened as vodka glasses clinked between Wehrmacht and Red Army. The world, it seemed, had turned upside down once more. He studied the Soviet colonel across the table, another soldier trapped by orders not of his making. "History will not forgive us," Adler muttered under his breath. Huber laughed, mistaking it for irony. That night, Adler sat alone, mapping future campaigns whispered by Berlin, France, Scandinavia, maybe beyond. The ink on Poland's destruction had not yet dried, and already the Reich's hunger was insatiable. Outside, rain washed over the cobblestones, tracing reflections of tanks and red stars merging in one murky puddle. Adler's handwriting trembled as he penned another letter to his wife, Clara, in Munich. He wrote of the autumn leaves over the Bug River, of soldiers singing around campfires, but never of the nightmares that woke him, the cries of civilians caught between advancing lines. He tucked the letter away unsent. To write truthfully was treason. To write lies was unbearable. Each day troops delivered more civilians to administrative camps under orders he could not question.
Hubers said cheerfully, "The Führer builds a new Europe." Adler turned away, replying only, "At what cost?" His reflection in the tent's lamp flickered like an old man's ghost. Somewhere beyond the front, Europe watched in silence as Poland vanished from her maps. Adler wondered how many others in gray uniforms dreamed of warning the world, yet kept their silence, as he did now. By late September, the siege of Warsaw roared without mercy. From the hills west of the city, Adler watched artillery fire dance across the skyline like a living storm. Columns of smoke rose where homes once stood. Refugees huddled along the roads, their carts laden with what little remained of their lives. An officer reported proudly, "The capital will fall before week's end, sir." Adler nodded, but felt none of the triumph. Through binoculars he saw the city crumble as if in slow motion. "This will stain us for generations," he whispered, unheard beneath the thundering guns. When Warsaw surrendered on September 27th, the cheers of victory were hollow bells to his ears. The ruins smoked under a gray sky, and for the first time Adler wondered not whether Germany would lose, but how terrible her victory might become.
October brought uneasy calm. In a billet near Poznan, Adler sat with two colonels over maps and whispered doubts. One, a veteran from the old Prussian Guard, confessed, "He leads us to chaos." The other only muttered, "Be silent, walls have ears." Outside, young soldiers marched, chanting loyalty oaths with fervor. The regime's shadow had crept even into their barracks, turning every question into a crime. Adler remembered the aristocrats and patriots who once served Germany for honor, not ideology. "We are not the same army anymore," he said softly. A knock at the door ended the conversation. A messenger brought new orders, transferred to Berlin for consultations. The higher he climbed, the colder the air became, thin and dangerous. Somewhere beyond the Paradestrasse, the Reich's machinery whirred onward, indifferent to the doubts of one weary general. Berlin, November 1939. The city glittered under blackout curtains and propaganda banners. Adler arrived to briefings filled with fanatical certainty. Talk of France, Norway, even Britain next. He stood beneath the marble archways of the Reich Chancellery, feeling like a ghost haunting his own past. Inside, officials read reports of Polish casualties as mere numbers. When an adjutant praised the Führer's genius, Adler's jaw tightened. That night, he walked past the Brandenburg Gate, heavy snowfall masking the city's scars. Music drifted faintly from a nearby cafe, a strange normalcy amid the coming storm. He considered visiting his family, but stopped short, fearing the questions in Clara's eyes. The machine demanded faith, not thought. And yet, beneath his uniform, a single question pulsed louder each day. When would this nightmare consume them all?
December's quiet back at headquarters was deceptive. Snow covered the wreckage of war, and soldiers sang carols around fires, their voices echoing through frozen fields. Adler found himself confiding to a chaplain, an old friend from his regiment. "We've unleashed something unstoppable," he said. The chaplain nodded gravely. "And yet you stay." Adler's eyes dropped. To leave is betrayal. To stay, perhaps worse. The church bell tolled across the frosted plain. For a moment he allowed himself to remember simpler times, his son's laughter, a summer before all this madness. Yet the sound faded, leaving only the whisper of wind across steel helmets. Somewhere, Hitler spoke of destiny. Adler spoke only to his conscience, already preparing for the long road that would lead beyond Poland and into the heart of darkness itself.
As 1939 gave way to a new decade, General Friedrich Adler stood once more at the frontier, this time along the western border near the Siegfried Line. The world held its breath. Behind him, his soldiers repaired trenches. Ahead, France waited.
Snowflakes melted on his gloves as he stared westward. He recalled the words of the Polish officer. "You cannot win by destroying your honor." They echoed through him like prophecy. He knew war would grow darker, crueler, until it consumed even those who doubted. Yet he resolved to remember, to bear witness, for some day truth would be needed more than victory. The sun broke faintly through winter clouds, glimmering on steel and sorrow alike. In its weak light, Adler whispered to the silence, "God forgive us all." The storm was only beginning.